Hey, everybody, Dave Smith here, along with my awesome two co-hosts. One's missing, but Biscuit and Rebecca. I mean,
Hey, guys.
Patrick and Rebecca. Biscuit's missing. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So far, we decided to have like a little green room talk about, what's upcoming with the season, what we're going to talk about, a little pre-planning call right before the show.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. And I know it feels kind of crazy that we're talking about a summer wrap-up show already.
I know. When we did the promo, I'm like, this is a little depressing, right? Like end of summer wrap.
Yes, we're doing European style where like nothing happens in August.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
officially, like season is over.
Exactly. So, what's the latest? How's Patrick doing?
He has a pretty rough life. His teams kept getting knocked out of the World Cup.
Oh,
so we had to keep finding new outfits for him. He had an outfit for Norway. He had an outfit for France. He had an outfit for England. But there was no way he was putting on a Spain or Argentina outfit. So he sat out. He sat out the final. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, what an exciting World Cup! So I don't know how it was by you, but here in the Bay Area, one of the stadiums was Levi, where the 49ers play. So it was, the world ascended in the South Bay. Was it? I guess that's Santa Clara more so than San Jose, but it was just like from there to downtown San Jose was just like a big part. The world ascended. It was so cool to see everyone actually get along too, though. It was like super fun. I'm not sure anyone was actually really sober, but but it was highly entertaining to see people from around the world.
What a brilliant marketing thing by the Levi's guys too, right? FIFA made them cover their logos, so they covered it, but like shrink fit the wrapper, so it was still the Levi's.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Badge. So smart.
No, I think I'm wondering dollars wise, what the result was, because I know, it was like really well done in terms of the marketing, the messaging, and how they brought everything together. All the stadiums, from what I saw, it was similar, crowds, really, really like high energy.
Yeah, definitely an event that is different from any other sort of global sporting event.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it is the number one sport globally, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what's happening in the world of AI and tech and the stuff that we look at?
It's an exciting time. You and I were just talking before we started the show. We slow down for a little bit in July, and then before you know it, we're going to be back into the thick of it again. With Genesis Experience is the first week in September, and then we've got Dreamforce right around the corner. Oracle AI World just around the corner.
And then there's one show I go to because I sort of spend my time in some of the creative and design stuff. There's Adobe Max in November, which is going to be, interestingly enough, in Miami, Florida, not your typical LA. I know a couple years ago they also did it in Miami, but I know because usually they're around sort of creative agencies, that type of artist. So it'd be interesting to kind of see the audience in Miami, as opposed to like the Hollywood, LA type of agency. Have audience, but interesting.
For anybody who's wondering, Patrick is still waiting for his invites, so don't just expect because I'm invited to a show that I'm going to show up with him. If you want him to come, he needs to be invited, right? None of this. Rebecca shows up and everybody's like, "What are you doing here? And why is Patrick not here?" If you don't invite him, he's not gonna.
Yeah, oh my God. And Biscuit was supposed to be here, but he's at the vet with my daughter at the moment. So he's everything's fine, just a regular checkup, which is gonna cost, a gazillion billion dollars. Just, dude, I mean, gladly my daughter's getting into this thing because I'm in the wrong business, man. What a racket. What a racket.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
One visit you're like, so you get on the on like the insurance plan and all that stuff that has all the visits and all that stuff. But man, every shot's a different skew.
So speaking of rackets and ROI, and this is something you and Brent and I were talking about last week, is sort of the ROI from AI. And as we go from the sort of fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Or I heard a good one from Fred from Era a couple of weeks ago, which was certainty of missing out, to fear of messing up and sort of worrying that I'm going to wake up in the morning and find I have this sort of huge token bill and nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
One of the things that Brent brought up with last week when we were talking at the AMD event was sort of showing the ROI of AI.
Yeah.
And I think as much as folks are talking about like outcomes-based pricing and that sort of thing, nobody's really got it nailed yet. And I'm hearing new and evolving pricing models from everybody all the time. But there's still this sort of sense that people are going to spend a lot of money on AI.
Yeah.
Not necessarily token maxing per se, but sort of putting money into tokens to getting things out there and then not having the value to show for it on the other end.
Yeah.
Have you heard anybody, Dave, talking about doing that particularly well?
No, and that's the thing, right? It's like, and because I remember we had this discussion on the AMD watch party, right? The enterprise doesn't buy a computer, right? They just pay for it. And so baked into every token price they get quoted. And so nobody in that chain is actually accountable, for translating any of this, into any sort of, really substantive ROI, that a number that like a CFO can put in a budget. And so I think it's not even, it's not so much a technology gap. It's like a market gap because no one's doing it. Right? There's no one that's giving any sort of real substantial numbers or way to actually measure this stuff or to measure ROI. I think Zoom, what was it, like a couple months ago, shipped outcome-based pricing, that's their sort of thing on their virtual agent stuff. So you pay on resolved or routed interactions, so you're actually paying for something, not just seats and not usage or volume. So that's one vendor talking about absorbing, like the volatility instead of passing it on to the customer. So that's one sort of vendor talking about outcome price where you're actually paying for something rather than just the usage of it. So yeah, it's very, very quiet on that front.
Mm-hmm. And I know Zendesk is talking about outcome-based pricing, but there's sort of the folks that I've seen the closest to actually sort of tying telemetry and meterization, if you will, of tokens to actual business results is ServiceNow with Control Tower.
Yeah.
And their Impact product. And even that, there's still some kind of connecting the dots that has to happen.
Yeah.
To be able to kind of outline it. Now we just built an AI value coach that will say, Dave, tell me the 10 things that you're thinking about doing with AI within your organization. And then I'll help you rank them in terms of potential greatest value and potential greatest cost and risk.
Gotcha,
so before you even get to the pilot stage, sort of have a practical structured way to look through what are the projects I want to focus on first.
Right.
Will help people get over that sort of analysis paralysis, before they even start building.
It's interesting. Yeah.
But even so, I mean, I think there's still a lot we have to do, because it used to be huge board and CEO pressure saying, do something with AI. Now it's do something with AI, and by the way, make sure it delivers ROI, and B, don't mess up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Last week was on the call. So after the AMD call, we had a call with with Cisco for their collaboration briefing, Cisco collaboration briefing, and so they talked about their sort of Agent 360, which monitors agent behavior. So it's monitoring the security and the costs, so you can watch the agent's consumption, and then I guess try to rate it and live in quarantine if it runs away. So it was more supposed as a sort of a observability, security measure. It's also monitoring the agent behavior, so you can sort of try to curb some costs that way. But again, no one's answering Brent's question still. On how do you actually measure?
Yeah, and I will predict that we're going to hear a lot about things like not just observability, but things like kill switches this fall.
Right.
Where I can set a certain threshold on things that says if I'm running up this kind of, if I have a spike in tokens in a certain pattern, or if I have an abnormality AI in a certain way, shut it down until a human can actually take a look at it. But I think
because I think
automated within the system, because at the speed and scale with which AI can do things, by the time a human monitoring things catches up to what might be going on, that
exactly
that horse has left the barn.
Yeah. I mean, runaway consumption is a real failure mode, and it's not theoretical. You're right; it can get out of hand real quick. Like just in my personal life of using Claude, that use can get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this comment here.
So what else did you talk about? Oh, this is a question. What's that?
No one has mastered AI personalization or outcome-based results. How can we look
at that?
Farhan, it's a really, really good question. And I think that everyone, including the World Economic Forum, is under pressure to talk about the value and results from AI right now.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the bigger issue is not whether the technology works and whether the technology is available, but have we connected the kind of human dots that we need for any technology to be able to kind of take off and be useful.
Right, exactly.
And people have to be able to trust it, and they have to be comfortable that those kind of security guards and hall monitors are in place to keep it running on the right track before they're willing to sort of unleash the power of what it can potentially do.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big things that came up this past conference season. I noticed, with Databricks, and governance, Glassbox governance was one of the big things that comes up, because like, how do you sort of measure, everything that agents are doing, whether what they're reading, and so how do you put guardrails around that? And so we talk a lot about context, and my whole model about the universal context layer. How do you keep the context, especially like a CX environment? How do you keep context so that customers or people don't have to repeat their question and start from zero every time they talk to another agent along their CX journey. But a big part of that is, so there's context, but context has to be based on the truth, right? And so if there's no truth, how do you sort of verify that what the context is actually real? My daughter has a funny thing that she likes to say, it's like, Dad, you're being loud and wrong. And and so you can have all the context, think everything, but you're loud and wrong because what you're saying is not verified or based on the truth. So there's this big uptick now, and we saw this past conference season on governance. How do you get to ship governance and accountability to sort of verify that the context is actually based on the truth?
Yeah, and it doesn't help when you're looking at governance and accountability, and then you have things like OpenAI infiltrating Hugging Face.
Yeah, oh yes. Talk about that a little bit. That was interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I got asked about that at dinner by a very non-technical audience the other night, and they were like, "How worried about this?" And I was like, "Really worried." Not only should we be worried because OpenAI has the technology, and the technology is figuring out how to get around the guardrails that it puts in place. But these are one of the companies that's talking about how we should be trusting them for the management and observability of AI.
Yes.
They can't control their own internal stuff. What does that say about us mere mortals?
Mere mortals. No, you're right. I mean, I think it's fun. I was on a call with Salesforce. I think you were on that call. We're talking about Slack, and how, you were on the call, I believe, a few weeks back or so, and where they were talking about how Slack then becomes the context layer, right? That agents run on, and Slack conversations are the least structured verified data in the enterprise. And so
you've been talking about the universal context layer a lot, and it's nice to see people kind of picking up on that. But anybody who's lived in Slack knows that for all the great context that's in Slack, there's also a lot of loud wrong.
That's loud and wrong. Exactly. Loud and wrong. Exactly. And so I think that's where you're right. So everyone's talking about now everyone's talking about context, and now we're seeing people start talking about governance, which I think will be the next conference season even more so. And then what I'm hoping, based on our previous convo, is that when do we start seeing the economics piece, right, start to rear its head? If so, during this sort of fall conference season. But yeah, you're right. This context needs truth, right? And so like we have the Slack thing where it's this opt out model. You have to opt out, so you can't opt in. It's default opt out model. So it's interesting how they're trying to package that, because you have all this data and it's Slack context, but you can have a conversation in Slack, and the next sentence, oh yeah, that was wrong. And so how do you keep track of all that within an unstructured Slack conversation?
Well, and if you layer on top of that too, the fact that anybody who's played with the different models knows that they have high degrees of confidence in very improbable answers.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a certain swagger, context, and language that AI, and I'm not going to pick on any particular one because I think they're all equally bad, but they all sort of reflect the sort of hubris of the, developer that's a little bit smarter, that a little less smart than they think they are when they give an answer that is definitely wrong. They're very confident in those, even the wrong answers that they give. So if we put that in the conversational context, am I more likely to believe a coworker who has that kind of swagger? And what does that mean even for being able to trust the results that I get from AI within a conversational interface?
Exactly. It's funny. So to bring up the Slack thing, I had a conversation with Cisco last week at their collaboration briefing, so the agents, can now, carry long-term memory, right? Remembering what a customer said in the previous conversation. So if a customer, sort of tells you something, say in, January, that isn't true in July, now, how does the agent know? And can the customer see or even correct what's being remembered about them? Right. And so it's a lot of these things that we haven't figured out yet.
Well, and I think the other thing too, and you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past, is everybody gets so excited about generative AI that we did a lot of things using tokens that we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So if you talk to folks like Era, I had Fred on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about if they're building a skill for their AI to execute, they'll come back and say, how deterministic or probabilistic do you want it to be? Right. I can come to the same result with a deterministic workflow. It's always going to be faster, cheaper, more efficient.
Yeah.
More accurate than a probabilistic one. So why on earth would I spend for an LLM call if I can do it with a workflow?
That's right. That's interesting. That's a good point. Yeah. And especially now, with models going, from from 120 billion parameters, to now 9 billion in 7 months with better results. We're seeing like now the models begin to shift, not the big LLMs now, are sort of becoming more smaller and more focused, right? But the compute, is still crazy. And so how do we curb costs? And do you anticipate, and this is interesting too, the interface changing a bit? So speaking about how we work and so forth and workflow, because I think the chatbot probably wasn't. It was the interface by default, but not the best interface to sort of work with AI or agentic AI. And do you see that interface sort of changing and morphing into be more inherent into the actual application or the workflow that you're in based on typing in some chat interface?
And with voice getting better, I think it's going to be more of an ambient voice interface too.
Yeah. Right. So the data stays with you, right? But you inside of that app, inside of that workflow becomes the actual interface, right? It's not, based on you typing into some chat window. And you have to bring the context in yourself.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Cool. Well, we're almost out of time. Are we doing crunch time today, Dave?
You know what? Let's do it. I mean, let's pull it up here.
Let me wake Patrick up.
Let's get crunch time. Let me find crunch time though. Where's crunch time? Let's do it. Here we go.
Crunch time, where I ask the questions from Patrick, right? Right? What is the word or phrase you most overuse?
I overuse, oh my goodness. This season of my life, agentic AI is probably the most overused.
And context layer?
And well, yeah. So but I have to preface it, first with agentic AI.
Yeah. I don't think you're overusing context layer. I think it's a really good concept. Who's the historical figure you most admire?
Say again. Was that one?
Historical figure you most admire.
Historical figure I most admire. Good question. Historical figure I most admire. And I would have to say Frederick Douglass.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah, very from slave but scholarly writings. Very scholarly and sort of was in tune with his environment, but also in tune with the way the system worked. I was able to navigate.
That's great.
I know a weird way to describe Frederick Douglass, but it was, but it's very unique, being able to grasp the system that he was in and navigating that.
Okay. If you could come back as any person or thing, whom or what would you be?
If I could come back as any person or thing, man, give me Prince. So I would come back as Prince because I just thought he was the most creative dude in the world. I mean, just his creativity, the multi-instrumentalist, going from not being able to read music to reading music, and just so prolific.
Didn't he play like 17 instruments on the
Oh my God, yeah.
Like that? I mean, something crazy like that.
Yeah,
right?
Taught himself all of them. And I remember going to a show, a Prince show, and just I'm realizing that, okay, so he played everything on this album. It was like he was the band,
And he had like 5 different bands at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It is. Like I said, I mean, he still has songs. From I guess the rumor or the story goes that he still has like hundreds of thousands of songs in his vault, in was it Minneapolis, whatever it is, and so yeah, he was so prolific that he still has stuff that just unreleased, stuff because he just kept creating. So I would love that level of creativity and output, just being that creative. That's just insane.
Well, I mean, I think that's a high note to end on. So we went from AI ROI to Prince, all in that.
Oh yeah. Well, and he did funny. Speak about navigating the system that you're in, like Freddie Douglass. I'm seeing a thread here. So he was able to navigate the music industry and gain ownership back of all of his stuff.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. Good story.
Good stuff. All right. Well, it's almost August. So that means I guess we'll sign off and see each other in the fall.
Yeah, so like I guess not official end of the summer because like you mentioned, our European friends, especially in Italy, right? They're off all next month on holiday, right? But see everyone next time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Patrick. Bye.